inside of the Sugihara's house and the place where was a Japanese consulate founded in 1938. And you can see the face of Chiyonya Sugihara.
Sugihara was ordered by the Japanese government. The policy of Japan was not to help the Jews at all, to bring no harm to them, but to not give them any help whatsoever, none. Sugihara completely ignored the orders, and he issued himself over 6,000 transit visas. The Japanese policy, after 1941, December 7th, 1941, became very, very hostile towards the Jews, as you can imagine, although the government did not take any direct action against the Jews, but they did take a great deal of action against Sugihara. He was transferred and then fired. Shanghai eventually had over 25,000 Jews, and this is more than the Jews who were accepted by Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and India combined.
The police 20.
American?
Yes.
Okay.
He died in 1917. He had also followers here in Białystok, and now Esperanto is, as I told you, the most successful artificial language, but not as successful as Ludwig Zamenhof dreamed of. Because if he did succeed, truly succeed, then we would communicate Esperanto, not English. So his idea to bring peace to the whole world was to create one language so they could communicate, and that would cause the peace in the whole world. There was also lots of newspapers, Jewish newspapers, not in Hebrew, but most of them were in Yiddish. There were about 100 titles of different newspapers. Warsaw's Jewish community is trying to take care of Jewish cemetery. Białystok's Jewish cemetery is one of the biggest Jewish cemeteries in Poland. About 6,000 graves are here. Also at the center, we will walk to it, there's a monument commemorating pogrom in 1906, which took place here in Białystok.
I can see traces of tombstones all back through there, all on both the right side and the left side. So it doesn't end at the tree line. This cemetery is bigger than it appears.
Okay. Right.
Jews will not come back to Eastern Europe and settle here. They have no reason. To us, Eastern Europe, as we have seen up till now, and you're in to see much more tragic, is one big, enormous cemetery.
And so I really do want to compliment you. You've all been great troopers.
Robert also worked at the United States Holocaust Museum Memorial for
I had a fellowship. It was last year, beginning of last year, 3 months in Washington, D.C.
And the Robb family had started a foundation to make sure that the cemetery is kept up, and they have an attorney in Helm who comes and looks after and makes sure that it's here. And recently, a lot of the cemeteries and the Jewish buildings have been given back to the Jewish community for them to take care of. And in some ways, it's a curse.
Already in 13th, 14th century, there were mentions about the Jews in Helm. So it is one of the oldest Jewish community here in Poland.
Poland has a responsibility to the Jewish communities who were murdered. Give a look here, this town, right? These are Jewish buildings, 99%. We build this town, and not only this, but many. Now, the turnaround, Poles are sitting in it. There's no restitution for it. Now, if we have left it, and there is no claimants, nobody claims it, because they're all dead, right? At least the city government, at least the government of Poland should take care at least of the cemetery and say, thank you Jews that you lived here 1,000 years, thank you left us here and build up cities in Poland. Please, we are going to take care at least wspomnianie, to remember it. That's it. We are not angry at you, we are not angry at anybody, we are asking for justice.
And she was born here in Helm.
Ale pochodzę z Mościcki.
Adela Pietraszuk, this is her name.
Tatuś mój Mościcki był.
And her father's name was Mościcki.
Bili Żydów.
We wanted to help Jewish people because they were beaten in
takie
Helm.
małe dzieci, starsze.
So they were children, older children, and they asked for help. So we helped them.
To ja teraz ich pudełeczka zbieram i żelazo.
Yeah, right
I na
now
wózku mam nawet.
there is a very hard life for me.
Bo syn chory. Mój syn chory.
And my son is very ill, so... A pracuje pani? Nie.
Nie pracuję.
No, I don't work. A ma pani jakąś rantę?
To mało mam, bo jeszcze podpisałam, że rantem byłam kogoś, to bardzo mało, 3 miliony 300 zł.
But this is very little money.
The first thing she said was, I saved Jews.
Yes.
And if that didn't work, then she has a sick son. If that doesn't work, she has to have an operation on her knee. Please.
But I really wanted to believe her, you know.
Yeah, well, sure, you're a good man. When you reach my age, you'll be a little more skeptical about human nature.
Got a better bullshit detector.
The surrounding here, around the camp, around the ramp, it looked so nice. That the people, there were the flowers, there were nice barracks, and the people supposed that it is a work camp. Here was the entrance. Behind this greenhouse. In this greenhouse was the house of the commandant, Franz Stangl and Reichsleitner after Stangl. In Lublin is living the lady, the good friend of my family, and during the war she worked on the railway station in Helm as the interpreter. Among the Dutch Jews there were many German Jews who escaped to Holland before the war. And she told me, one of them told me, how far is to Sobibor, because we heard that in Sobibor there is some industrial center where the Jews are working. And the same moment the gendarme or assessman who heard this conversation took her on oversight and told her, tell something and you will go together with them.
Say that again?
You tell what?
Tell something and you will go together with them.
Oh.
And she told me, I didn't answer. I told only, you will see. But she told me everybody knew. Of course, and she told me, of course, everybody knew, but it wasn't the subject for the conversation between the people. And she told me it was very dangerous. We worked together with the Germans. And she told me, my chief, personal chief, the German chief, every weekend visited Sobibor because the assessment organized some fun here. Some party.
Casino. They had a casino. They were very well known for their entertainment.
He back every Monday, completely drunk, with the 2 suitcases of the furs, shoes, clothes, and every week he sent the suitcases to Germany. So everybody knew about this fact. And she told also that Ukrainians from this camp traveled between Sobibor and Helm and they tried to sell the
goods of the Jews.
Goods and something like that.
So they were going to put the camps where there were large communities of Ukrainians because they were the best people to run the camps, to do the work.
Yes. It's here were 12, 13 SS-men, Germans, and the unit about 120 Ukrainians. Unit was trained in Travniki camp, not far from here. It was the main camp for the training of the so-called the auxiliaries. The Ukrainians, Russians, Latvians, Lithuanians, and those people, many of them were from this region, Ukrainians. Because after the war there were several trials against them, and I read their testimonies. Of course they didn't want to say that they were in Sobibor, they told that, so of course we controlled some army barracks. Yes? Now there's a question why you was arrested when you controlled only army barracks. Because the last transport from Bełżec was sent here, and this last prisoners from Bełżec fight on the ramp. So it was also the attempt to resist against, also very big but not known fact. Together with the last Polish Jews who were deported in April and May 1943, to Sobibor came the knowledge, came the news about the uprising in Warsaw again. The archaeologists discovered here the biggest mass grave in whole Europe. It is behind this so-called Hill of the Ashes. On the mass graves, where are the mass graves? The grass is every fresh, every. Could you compare, for example, the grass here between the forest and here?
It's more growing here, more grass. Is that
Even during the very hot summer, the grass is fresh.
When you say gas chamber, are you also talking about the crematoria? They didn't just burn bodies here, did they?
And I would like to show you where was this primitive crematorium here. Only from the end of 1942, beginning of 1943, it was the Himmler's order to burn the bodies in the camps. And here in Sobibor, this primitive crematorium was here, somewhere here, and it was like some kind of a primitive grill. So on the structures, it was the hole in the earth for the fat, human fat. There were the bodies, wood bodies, and the Germans put the fuel on this.
Yeah, the funeral pyres.
And they burned the bodies.
Are Nazis also victims?
Listen, I didn't want to say that the perpetrators are not guilty. It's something different to be guilty and to be also a victim. In my opinion, in my personal opinion only, even a killer is a victim. Is a man who devastated his own life.
Yes, but the word victim is too precious a term to call them. They got what they deserved. When we have free wills, and if we make the wrong mistake, we have to pay for it.
Esther Robb is a survivor of Sobibor, and in her play, which came out of the testimony that she gave to everyone, she tells a story about being with a group of girls and they were cooking dinner for the SS. And one time when they were cooking dinner for the SS, they all decided that they would pee and pour it into the soup. And when they peed and they poured it into the soup, and when the soldiers were eating the soup, they said it was the most delicious soup that they ever had, and the girls all thought it was so funny.
I live here.
You live here? Yes. It's quiet?
Yes. It's beautiful.
Yes. You know the history of this place, yes?
Yes, tak.
You've read about it? Your parents told you?
My parents... jakby to powiedzieć?
Not from here?
No. My mother live Oświęcim.
Auschwitz?
My mother...
Auschwitz?
Yes.
What's your name?
Camille.
Camille?
Yes.
I disturbed Camille's peace and quiet.
shaving in this room, the group was taken to the next one, which served as a shower. It's estimated, officially estimated, that 235,000 totally. But in the opinion of Mr. Kranz, not so many, about 150,000. When they opened the door, corpses were standing. What temperature was outside and inside? How much gas they used? How many people were inside? Of course, it could last even 10 minutes, but even 10 minutes of dying in these conditions is something not possible to describe. The clothes were disinfected with Cyclone B, but people were killed by carbon monoxide. When doors were opened, it was much more easier to refresh the chamber after the gassing process than in the smaller one.
3 people were in each one of these?
They made the whole length of the thing, and they shoved in as many as you could.
So in winter, is this all you had?
That's all.
Did you have any shoes?
A wood shoe.
Oh, like that?
Yeah.
The largest group of victims of the camp were Jewish people, but the second largest group were Polish people. About 30% of victims of the camp were Polish people. So the truth is that they found here about 260,000 shoes, not pair of shoes, but shoes. And that about 500 prisoners escaped from the camp, but most of them escaped from transports or from places of work situated outside of the camp. The problem was that every time when someone escaped, other prisoners were punished for that.
Kahane, that somebody escaped, and they counted every 10 person, they shot him right on the spot.
And one of the prisoners was an artist from Warsaw. His name was Albin Boniecki. His third work was this column of three, officially, column of 3 pigeons. Of course, for all of Polish prisoners, that was a column not of 3 pigeons, but of 3 eagles, because an eagle is a symbol of Poland and it's a symbol of liberty.
Whatever happened to the artist?
He survived. He survived, yes. He was released, he was bought out from the camp because at Majdanek, as in other places, there was a corruption system, and his family in any way found some possibility and they paid money. And
was he Jewish?
No, he was Polish prisoner, Albin Boniecki.
Could Jewish prisoners be bought out?
No, of course not. No. Jewish prisoners, there were 3 ways for them: to escape, to die in the camp, or to be deported to other places. And there was an uprising in Warsaw Ghetto, in Białystok Ghetto, in death camp in Treblinka, and in October 1943 in death camp in Sobibor. And just after those events, SS authorities in Lublin, they were afraid that something like this, some kind of Jewish revolt could happen also here. And that is why they ordered to speed up the final solution in Lublin region. And all of Jews were gathered on the compound number 5. Then in small groups they were taken to the barrack which stood in the corner. Then they were forced to undress, and naked they were taken to the trenches. In the trenches they were forced to lie down, and then they were shot. Group by group. When the trench was covered by the first layer of corpses, next people were forced to lie down on corpses of people who were shot before. Yes, on the top of them. In this way, during one day, they executed 18,400 people. The same day, Jews were killed in 2 other places, in Trawniki and in the next day in Poniatowa. So the total number of victims of that day is 42,000. The name of that action was Entefest. Entefest means Harvest Festival. And that was the last part of the final solution in Lublin region. After a few days, corpses were exhumed and burned on pyres. They exhumed corpses from mass graves and they burned them also in this way, on pyres. That is why, before the liberation, almost all of traces of crimes, I mean mass graves, were empty, were removed. These traces were removed, except one only. This was a dissection table, and they were put on this dissection table. Hyenas extracted gold and silver teeth, and if they supposed that someone could swallow something before his death, they cut the stomach, they looked inside. But if someone who was employed before in a workshop, in a storehouse, where prisoners searched prisoners' belongings, where they found many times golden coins, rings, and so on. So, if someone like this died, his body was really dissected here. Okay. You can go on.